This wasn't random. You didn't choose that reaction. It happened before you could think. By the end of this, the reaction will look less mysterious. Not as weakness, not as failure, but as mechanism. Something is said. A tone shifts, a face changes slightly, and suddenly your body tightens, or withdraws, or sharpens. You respond faster than thought. Later, you replay it. You ask yourself why you said that, why you shut down, why your voice changed, why your mood shifted so quickly. You tell yourself you should have handled it differently. But in the moment, there was no gap between stimulus and response. That is because most reactions are not chosen in real time. They are retrieved. The brain does not begin from neutrality in each situation. It predicts, it prepares. It selects responses based on stored patterns, long before conscious reflection begins. Reaction is faster than intention. The nervous system prioritizes efficiency over accuracy. If something resembles a previous emotional threat, the body does not wait for analysis, it moves. The movement may not be visible, it may be subtle. A tightening in the chest, a slight change in posture, a defensive tone. But the shift has already happened. Conscious choice requires time. Reactions operate in milliseconds. Between the stimulus and your awareness of it, entire neural sequences unfold. The amygdala scans for familiarity. The body mobilizes. Hormones adjust. Muscles prepare. Only afterward does the mind construct a narrative. The narrative feels like authorship. But often it is explanation after the fact. You believe you chose the reaction because you can explain it. Explanation does not equal origin. The origin is older. Older than the current conversation. Older than the current relationship. Sometimes older than your memory of where it began. Early experiences calibrate reaction speed. If your environment once required vigilance, your system learned to react quickly. If unpredictability was common, anticipation became automatic. Anticipation often feels like personality. You might say you are sensitive, or intense, or distant, or defensive. But these are patterns of reaction, not fixed traits. A reaction is a stored solution to a past condition. When that condition appears again, even faintly, the solution activates. You do not deliberate, you execute. Execution feels immediate because it bypasses reflective thought. This is not loss of control in the dramatic sense. It is automation. Automation is efficient. It saves energy. It reduces uncertainty. It shortens response time. The brain prefers automation whenever possible. The problem is not that automation exists. The problem is that it continues operating even when the context has changed. A tone in someone's voice resembles an earlier tone. Your body remembers the earlier outcome. It prepares for that ending before the current story has unfolded. Preparation feels like reaction. Sometimes it feels like anger. Sometimes like withdrawal. Sometimes like compliance. Different histories create different reflexes. If confrontation once led to rejection, silence may have become protective. If unpredictability once led to chaos, control may have become urgent. These responses were adaptive. They worked at some point. That is why they were stored. The nervous system does not archive ineffective strategies. It strengthens what once ensured survival. Survival here does not only mean physical safety. It means emotional continuity, attachment stability, avoidance of overwhelming shame or loss. When a situation even subtly resembles those earlier conditions, the system assumes continuity. It does not pause to verify whether the resemblance is accurate. It reacts to similarity, not to objective reality. This is why sometimes the intensity of your reaction does not match the scale of the event. The scale belongs to the past as well. The present moment is only the trigger. Triggers are rarely dramatic. They are tonal, relational, micro-expressions, slight delays. Signals too small for language, but large enough for memory. Memory is not only cognitive recall. It is embodied pattern recognition. When a pattern aligns, activation begins. Activation narrows perception. You see through the lens of the previous ending. You prepare for what once happened. And in preparing, you sometimes recreate it. Not intentionally, but predictably. If you expect distance, your tone may cool. If you expect betrayal, vigilance sharpens. If you expect abandonment, withdrawal begins early. These micro-adjustments influence the interaction. The other person responds to your shift. The pattern completes itself. Then you look back and say, this always happens. It feels like fate. But it is repetition. Repetition does not mean intention. It means automation. Automation continues until it is interrupted. Interruption requires awareness, not during the replay afterward. During the split second before the reaction solidifies. But that split second is narrow, almost invisible. Most of the time, the reaction wins. And afterward, regret appears. Regret is slower than reaction. Reflection arrives after the body has already spoken. You think that wasn't really me. In a sense, it was not. It was a version of you optimized for a different environment. A version shaped by earlier conditions. That version still exists because the nervous system does not erase adaptations easily. It conserves them. The uncomfortable part is realizing how often your reactions are echoes. Echoes of earlier dynamics. Echoes of previous endings. You may believe you are responding to this person, but part of you is responding to someone else entirely. Not consciously, but structurally. Structure outlives memory. The structure of expectation, the structure of defense, the structure of pursuit or retreat. When similar relational geometry appears, the structure activates. You feel certain in the moment. Certainty is part of the automation. It prevents hesitation. Hesitation once carried risk. So the system learned to move first. Later, in calm space, doubt appears. You question the intensity. But by then the reaction has already shaped the interaction. Notice how quickly it happens. A single phrase, a slight look, a pause in response. And your internal state shifts. You did not choose the shift. It chose you, not randomly, but through history, through repetition, through reinforced neural pathways that once kept you safe. This does not make you powerless. It makes you patterned. Patterned responses create continuity. Continuity creates identity. You begin to think, this is just how I am. But identity often stabilizes around repeated reactions. If the reaction changes, identity shifts. That possibility can feel destabilizing. Because automation is familiar. Familiarity feels safe, even when it creates unwanted endings. The mind prefers known discomfort over unknown space. So the reaction repeats. And each repetition strengthens the pathway. The pathway becomes faster. Eventually, it feels instantaneous. You begin to believe you are choosing, but you are executing. Execution is not awareness. Awareness slows the sequence. Slowing reveals the narrow space between trigger and response. That space is small, but it exists. And noticing that it exists changes the perception of control. Control is not about suppressing reaction. It is about seeing it form. Seeing the body tense before the words leave your mouth. Seeing the withdrawal impulse before silence settles. Recognition does not erase automation immediately, but it disrupts inevitability. Disruption weakens repetition. The first step is not changing the reaction. It is admitting that you did not consciously choose it. That recognition removes self-judgment. It replaces blame with observation. Observation reveals pattern. Pattern reveals history. And history explains intensity. You are not broken. You are rehearsed. Rehearsed reactions feel automatic because they have been practiced unconsciously for years. Practice creates speed. Speed bypasses reflection. But speed is not destiny. It is conditioning. Conditioning can be seen. And once seen, it no longer feels mystical. It feels mechanical. Mechanical does not mean emotionless. It means structured. And structure can be recognized. The next time the shift happens, it may feel slightly different. Not because the trigger changed, but because you notice the reaction beginning. In that noticing, something subtle shifts. You are no longer entirely inside the reaction. Part of you is watching it. That watcher is not automatic. It is present. And presence alters repetition. You didn't choose that reaction. But now you can see it forming. And that changes what happens next. There's another layer beneath this mechanism. One that explains why certain reactions feel almost magnetic. And once that layer becomes visible, the pattern will look even clearer.
I'm Oliver, and now you know why this happens. Or at least a part of it.